At almost 65 years old, Vince Coleman should be remembered as one of baseball's greatest speedsters, but instead, he's known for destroying one of the most promising careers in sports history. This is the story of a man who achieved something no other player in the 20th century could accomplish, yet threw it all away through a pattern of reckless behavior that turned him from a record-breaking superstar into baseball's most hated player. Coleman's tale isn't just about wasted talent. It's about how a historic athlete became the poster child for self-destruction in professional sports. Vincent Maurice Coleman burst onto the baseball scene in 1985 with the kind of rookie season that legends are made of. Playing for the St. Louis Cardinals, he stole 110 bases in his first year, setting a record for rookies that still stands today. This wasn't just impressive, it was historic. His performance earned him the unanimous National League Rookie of the Year award, and fans across America were witnessing the birth of a new kind of baseball star. But Coleman wasn't done making history. He followed up his rookie season with 107 stolen bases in 1986 and 109 in 1987, becoming the only player in the entire 20th century to achieve 3 consecutive seasons with over 100 stolen bases. The Cardinals built their offense around Coleman's legs. His ability to get on base and immediately become a threat changed how opposing teams played defense. Pitchers couldn't focus solely on the batter when Coleman was dancing off first base, ready to steal second at any moment. His aggressive base running style became a key catalyst for 2 Cardinals pennants, and St. Louis fans couldn't get enough of their lightning-fast leadoff man. During his 6 seasons with the Cardinals, Coleman compiled an incredible 549 stolen bases, placing him second only to the legendary Lou Brock in franchise history. If you're enjoying this deep dive into one of baseball's most controversial careers, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest sports stories that go beyond the headlines. But even during his peak years in St. Louis, warning signs of Coleman's troubling personality were emerging. In 1985, when a reporter asked him about baseball pioneer Jackie Robinson, Coleman's response shocked the baseball world. He said, "I don't know nothing about him. Why are you asking me about Jackie Robinson?" The backlash was immediate and brutal. Rachel Robinson, Jackie's widow, responded by saying she hoped Coleman would learn and be embarrassed by his own ignorance. This wasn't just a mistake or poor judgment. The public saw it as profound disrespect and arrogance from a young player who should have known better. This single comment established a narrative that would follow Coleman for the rest of his career. The same year brought another bizarre incident that would become a recurring theme in Coleman's story. During the 1985 National League Championship Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, Coleman was stretching during a rain delay before Game 4 when disaster struck. A large automated tarp at Busch Stadium rolled over his leg, causing a chipped knee bone and severe bruising. The injury sidelined him for the remainder of the postseason, and many blamed the Cardinals' eventual World Series loss to the Kansas City Royals on his absence. Following the 1990 season, Coleman became a free agent and signed a massive 4-year contract worth $11.95 million with the New York Mets. The organization was trying to replace power hitter Darryl Strawberry, who had left for Los Angeles, with Coleman's speed-based game. From the very beginning, this expensive experiment was doomed to fail. Coleman's time in New York was plagued by hamstring injuries that limited his playing time and destroyed his signature stolen base production. He played in just 72 games in 1991 and 71 games in 1992, with his stolen base totals plummeting to a pathetic 37 and 24 respectively. The decline in his performance fueled harsh criticism from fans and media. Critics called him an AstroTurf player whose success depended on artificial surfaces, claiming his only asset was negated by the grass field at Shea Stadium. This criticism highlighted a fundamental strategic failure by the Mets front office, who had invested massive money in a player whose skills were optimized for a surface that didn't exist at their home ballpark. Coleman's own complaints that the field was keeping him out of the Hall of Fame only made the situation worse and contributed to the negative media coverage. Beyond his on-field struggles, Coleman developed a reputation as a clubhouse nightmare. Fans described him as a jerk, a clubhouse cancer, and a miserable excuse for a human being. His conflicts with management were frequent and public. An argument with coach Mike Cubbage at the end of the 1991 season contributed to manager Bud Harrelson's firing. A more serious altercation with Harrelson's replacement, Jeff Torborg, in September 1992 resulted in Coleman being suspended for the rest of the season. The dysfunction reached new levels in April 1993 when Coleman recklessly swung a golf club in the clubhouse and injured teammate Dwight Gooden. While Gooden wasn't seriously hurt and was able to pitch the next day, the incident perfectly captured Coleman's careless attitude and complete lack of awareness about how his actions affected others. The controversies extended beyond the clubhouse walls. In 1991, Coleman and teammates Dwight Gooden and Darrell Boston were named in a sexual assault complaint by a woman in Florida. While prosecutors ultimately didn't pursue charges due to insufficient evidence, the allegation became another permanent stain on Coleman's public image. For public figures, serious accusations can destroy reputations even without legal convictions, and this incident became another piece of evidence in the narrative of Coleman as a troubled individual. All of these issues were building toward one final, catastrophic moment that would end Coleman's time in New York forever. On July 24, 1993, after a game at Dodger Stadium, Coleman made the decision that would destroy whatever remained of his reputation. While sitting in a car with teammates Bobby Bonilla and Eric Davis, Coleman threw a powerful firecracker from the vehicle into a crowd of fans who were waiting for autographs. The explosive device was identified by authorities as an M100 or M80, which has the power of a quarter stick of dynamite. The explosion injured 3 innocent people. A 2-year-old girl named Amanda Santos suffered second-degree burns to her cheek and damage to her eye and finger. An 11-year-old boy sustained cuts on his shin. A 33-year-old woman reported hearing problems and vertigo. Coleman initially called his actions inappropriate, but had the audacity to complain about being portrayed as insensitive and uncaring, showing zero genuine remorse for the pain he had caused to children and adults alike. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office charged Coleman with a felony for unlawful possession of an explosive device. They chose this serious charge because of the strength of the explosive and the severity of the injuries to his victims. While facing a maximum sentence of 3 years in prison, Coleman eventually accepted a plea deal that reduced the charge to a misdemeanor. He was sentenced to a $1,000 fine, 200 hours of community service, and was ordered to pay restitution to the people he had hurt. The Mets' response was immediate and final. On August 26, 1993, co-owner Fred Wilpon issued a public statement that Coleman would be placed on paid administrative leave for the rest of the season and, most importantly, that he would never play for the Mets again regardless of the legal outcome. Wilpon stated that the team had the right to release him, trade him, or fight him on his contract, and that it was in the organization's best interest that he never wear a Mets uniform again. This public declaration was unprecedented for Wilpon and sent a clear message that the organization was done tolerating Coleman's behavior. The firecracker incident wasn't just another controversy in Coleman's troubled career. It was the final straw that forced the Mets to take decisive action. Unlike previous clubhouse conflicts or unproven allegations, this was a clear act of public endangerment with real, verifiable victims. It transcended internal team issues and became a public relations crisis that threatened the organization's reputation. Coleman became the scapegoat for an entire era of Mets dysfunction, and his fate with the team was sealed. Following his banishment from New York, Coleman's career became a nomadic journey through baseball's lesser franchises. On January 5, 1994, he was traded to the Kansas City Royals along with cash in exchange for Kevin McReynolds. His performance with the Royals provided a brief respite from his declining career as he managed to record 76 stolen bases in 179 games. However, this was merely delaying the inevitable downward spiral. Coleman was traded to the Seattle Mariners in mid-1995, played briefly for the Cincinnati Reds in 1996, before being released, and concluded his career with a limited and unsuccessful stint with the Detroit Tigers in 1997. His post-Cardinals statistics reflected a dramatic drop in production, with his overall on-base percentage, slugging ability, and stolen base efficiency all declining significantly from his glory years in St. Louis. Despite everything that went wrong, Coleman's athletic achievements cannot be ignored. He retired from baseball with 752 career stolen bases, ranking him 6th in Major League history. He holds numerous historical distinctions, including being the only player to achieve 3 consecutive 100 stolen base seasons. In 2017, he was inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, recognizing his athletic brilliance during those peak years with the Cardinals. Don't forget to like this video if you found this story as incredible as we did, and subscribe for more deep dives into the careers that could have been legendary, but ended in controversy instead. However, Coleman's legacy remains a powerful example of how talent alone isn't enough to secure a place among baseball's greats. Despite being a statistical marvel whose name appears in the record books, he's rarely celebrated alongside other baseball legends. His series of public missteps created an indelible image that completely overshadowed his historic achievements. The disconnect between his on-field brilliance and off-field reputation represents one of the starkest examples in sports history of wasted potential. While Coleman has a legitimate claim to being a historical figure in base stealing, his career is remembered more for the chaos he created than for the records he set. He became a symbol of professional dysfunction, and his name serves as a reminder of how quickly extraordinary talent can be destroyed by poor decisions and reckless behavior. At almost 65, Vince Coleman's story stands as a cautionary tale about the importance of character, showing that athletic greatness means nothing if you can't control your worst impulses. Keith Hernandez is over 70 now, and his story remains one of baseball's most compelling tales of talent, struggle, and redemption. Most fans remember him as the mustached broadcaster calling Mets games, but his path to that booth was anything but simple. This is the story of a man who revolutionized first base, won championships, faced personal demons, and ultimately found a way to transform his life completely. Born in San Francisco in 1953, Keith grew up in a household where baseball wasn't just a game. It was everything. His father, John, had been a baseball prospect whose own dreams were cut short by circumstance. That unfulfilled ambition got channeled directly into Keith and his brother Gary. John created an intense training program that started in their garage, where Keith would swing at a sock filled with a tennis ball hanging from a rope for hours. He filmed Keith's at-bats with a home movie camera and made him study the footage. He even gave 8-year-old Keith written tests about game situations. This demanding upbringing created something special in Keith, but it came with emotional costs. His brother Gary noticed that Keith seemed to perform better under pressure, not worse. That ability to thrive when things got tough would define his entire career. But the intense training also created a complicated relationship with his father that Keith described as a love-hate thing. While he relied on his dad's knowledge to fix his swing during slumps, he also felt a constant need to prove his independence. The psychological conditioning from this childhood would prove crucial throughout Keith's career. There were times when his father's criticisms left him in tears, but it also built extraordinary resilience. Keith learned to excel amid chaos, a skill that would be tested repeatedly during his professional life. Keith's professional journey started quietly. The Cardinals drafted him in the 42nd round in 1971. He was the 783rd player selected, hardly a can't-miss prospect. His minor league numbers were ordinary. He hit around 250 for most of those years, but something clicked when he reached the Cardinals' AAA team in Tulsa. His average jumped to 351, and suddenly the major leagues were calling. The breakthrough came in 1979, a season that announced Keith as one of baseball's elite players. He led the National League in batting average at 344, runs scored with 116, and doubles with 48. That season earned him a share of the Most Valuable Player award with Willie Stargell, the first and only time two players have ever tied for the honor. But Keith's real revolution was happening at first base, where he was completely redefining what the position could be. Before him, first base was essentially where teams parked their big power hitters who couldn't field anywhere else. Keith changed all that with innovations that seem obvious now but were revolutionary then. His defensive skills turned first base into what experts called a defensive weapon. He could charge bunts with the speed of an infielder, often catching runners off guard. He had an incredibly strong throwing arm that allowed the Mets to redesign their infield positioning. Keith developed a pickoff move that was so effective, it kept base runners honest and changed how teams approached stealing second base. From 1978 to 1988, he won 11 straight Gold Glove awards, still a record for National League first basemen. Keith didn't just play first base, he reimagined what the position could be and influenced an entire generation of future first basemen. His offensive numbers during his Cardinals years were consistently excellent. He batted over 307 times and finished with a career batting average of 296. His on-base percentage of 384 demonstrated his value as a complete hitter who understood getting on base. While Keith was establishing himself as one of the game's best players, his personal life was becoming complicated. Like many players in the early 1980s, he began using cocaine during a period when drug use was widespread throughout baseball. For Keith, what started as recreational use during a difficult period following his separation from his wife gradually became more problematic. The culture of baseball in the early 1980s was very different from today. There was less awareness about addiction and fewer support systems for players struggling with substance abuse. Before we dive deeper into how Keith overcame these challenges, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think was the most impressive part of Keith's defensive game. Was it those 11 consecutive Gold Gloves, or the way he completely changed how first base was played? Keith's troubles came to a head through his deteriorating relationship with Cardinals manager Whitey Herzog. Herzog was old school. His two rules for players were simple. Be on time and hustle. He felt Keith was coasting on his talent, doing crossword puzzles in the clubhouse, and not giving maximum effort. But the real issue was Herzog's growing awareness of Keith's off-field problems. The breaking point came in 1983. On June 15th, the Cardinals traded Keith to the New York Mets for two pitchers, Neil Allen and Rick Ownbay. Cardinals fans booed when the trade was announced at Busch Stadium. Herzog later admitted he viewed Keith as a cancer on the team because of his drug use. The trade was meant to bury Keith on a last-place team that had lost 94 games or more every season from 1977 to 1982. Instead, something amazing happened. The change of scenery was exactly what Keith needed. Despite being initially unsettled by the move, he hit 306 for the Mets over the rest of 1983 and won his 6th straight Gold Glove. More importantly, leaving Saint. Lewis removed him from the environment that had enabled his drug use. The Mets were building something special with young players like Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, and Ron Darling. They needed veteran leadership, and Keith became that leader almost immediately. Keith was named the Mets' first ever on-field captain. His veteran presence and high standards transformed a team of talented individuals into a championship unit. The culmination came in 1986 when the Mets won 100 games and defeated the Boston Red Sox in a thrilling 7-game World Series. Keith hit 310 during the regular season and provided the steady leadership the team needed during their most intense moments. But Keith's past caught up with him during the 1985 Pittsburgh drug trials. As part of a federal investigation into drug trafficking in baseball, Keith was granted immunity to testify about what he knew. Under oath, he admitted to using cocaine for 3 years starting in 1980. He said he had developed an insatiable desire for more and had even played games while under the influence. Keith also made a statement that created headlines across the country. He estimated that maybe 40% of major league players were using cocaine in the early 1980s. He later said he might have been grossly wrong about that number, but the damage was done. Baseball was facing a crisis, and Keith had become one of the most prominent faces associated with it. Commissioner Peter Ueberroth suspended 11 players in February 1986, including Keith. But Keith's suspension was conditional. He could continue playing if he agreed to drug testing for the rest of his career and contributed 10% of his salary to anti-drug programs. Keith accepted those terms and never failed a drug test again. He had truly left his drug use behind. The scandal probably cost Keith a spot in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Despite his incredible achievements, the MVP award, 2 World Series championships, those 11 Gold Gloves, he never received more than 10.8% of the vote from baseball writers. He fell off the ballot in 2004. Modern statistics show Keith's career was actually Hall of Fame worthy, with a career WAR of 60.3 that compares favorably to several inducted players. But the drug scandal overshadowed his on-field greatness. Keith finished his playing career with the Cleveland Indians in 1990, but retirement opened up a completely new chapter. In 1998, he joined the Mets broadcast team as a color commentator. Since 2006, he's been part of a beloved trio with Ron Darling and Gary Cohen on SNY. Keith's broadcasting style is unique and instantly recognizable. He's known for his wry humor, honest analysis, and willingness to criticize players when they make mistakes. Mets fans love his curmudgeonly personality and deep knowledge of the game. He's won 2 Emmy Awards for his work and has become as much a part of Mets culture as any active player. Beyond baseball, Keith became a cultural icon through his guest appearance on the popular television series Seinfeld in the 1990s. His famous mustache was even recognized by the American Mustache Institute as the top sports mustache ever. He's used his platform for important causes, particularly supporting the Alzheimer's Association in honor of his mother, who suffered from the disease. Keith's story found its proper ending when the Mets retired his number 17 in 2022, placing it alongside other franchise legends at Citi Field. He was also inducted into the Cardinals Hall of Fame in 2021, showing that both organizations eventually recognized his contributions despite the controversies. Looking back, Keith Hernandez represents something important about second chances and personal growth. He made serious mistakes during his playing career, mistakes that had real consequences for his reputation and Hall of Fame chances. But he owned those mistakes, accepted responsibility, and built a new life that has brought joy to millions of fans for over 25 years. Keith's defensive innovations changed baseball forever, influencing how first base is played even today. His leadership helped bring a championship to New York. His broadcasting work has educated and entertained fans for decades, proving that athletes can successfully transition to new careers with the right attitude and work ethic. His story shows that while our mistakes have consequences, they don't have to define our entire lives. Keith Hernandez proved that with honesty, hard work, and a genuine commitment to change, it's possible to build something meaningful from even the most difficult circumstances. What do you think about Keith's complete journey from his complicated childhood through his playing career to his success as a broadcaster? Let me know in the comments what part of his story resonates most with you, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about baseball's most fascinating figures and their paths through life. At 70 years old, Ozzie Smith is living proof that one bad season can't destroy a legendary career, despite what happened in 1996 when his relationship with manager Tony La Russa fell apart completely. That final year saw public fights, closed-door meetings, and a retirement announcement that shocked baseball fans everywhere. But here's the thing about legends. They're built on much more than one difficult season. The trouble started when La Russa arrived in St. Louis with a completely different approach to managing players. While Smith's longtime manager Whitey Herzog had valued the veteran shortstop as the heart of the team, La Russa brought a data-driven philosophy that didn't care about reputation or past achievements. He acquired younger shortstop Royce Clayton and announced an open competition for the starting job, directly challenging Smith's position as the undisputed starter. During spring training, Smith hit 288 with 0 errors, while Clayton struggled with a 190 batting average and 8 defensive mistakes. Despite this clear performance difference, La Russa gave most playing time to the younger player. Smith believed his spring performance had earned him the starting job, but La Russa disagreed completely. The manager stated that Smith misunderstood how he compared to Clayton, citing improvements in defense and base running. The professional clash became more than just a disagreement about playing time. It was a fundamental conflict between old-school respect for veterans and new analytical approaches to roster management. La Russa's methods went against everything Smith had experienced with managers like Herzog, who valued intangible contributions alongside statistics. This tension led to a closed-door meeting in mid-May, where La Russa offered to trade Smith, rather than continue the uncomfortable situation. Instead of accepting a trade, Smith and his agent negotiated a buyout of special contract provisions in exchange for a retirement announcement. This led to the controversial press conference at Busch Stadium on June 19, 1996, where Smith announced he would retire at the end of the season. But Smith didn't just announce his decision, he used the platform to express his displeasure with La Russa's handling of the entire situation. La Russa responded publicly by acknowledging a strain in their relationship that he believed would never disappear. If you're enjoying this deep dive into baseball history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think about the La Russa situation. Was the manager right to prioritize youth over experience? Or should veterans like Smith get more respect? Drop your thoughts below. But this story of conflict doesn't tell the real story of Ozzie Smith. To understand his true legacy, we need to go back to the beginning. Smith was born on December 26, 1954, in Mobile, Alabama, as the second of 6 children. When he was 6 years old, his family moved to the Watts section of Los Angeles, where his father worked as a delivery truck driver and his mother as a nursing home aide. His mother, Marvila, was incredibly important in shaping his character, teaching him the value of education and pursuing his dreams no matter what obstacles he faced. During his childhood in Los Angeles, Smith began developing the amazing reflexes that would make him famous. He spent hours bouncing a rubber ball off the concrete steps in front of his house, moving closer with each throw to improve his reaction time. He also practiced flips into neighborhood sawdust piles, which became the foundation for his signature backflip celebration. Despite his natural athletic ability, Smith wasn't heavily recruited out of Locke High School, where he played with future NBA player Marcus Johnson and Hall of Famer Eddie Murray. College recruiters didn't show much interest, but this didn't stop Smith from pursuing his dreams. He enrolled at California Polytechnic State University in 1974 on a partial academic scholarship. Smith walked onto the baseball team and earned a starting role when the regular shortstop broke his leg. This was where he learned to switch hit from his coach Bertie Haar, a skill that proved invaluable throughout his career. By graduation in 1977, Smith had set school records for career at-bats with 754 and stolen bases with 110. His path to the majors wasn't smooth. In 1976, he was drafted by the Detroit Tigers but couldn't agree on contract terms. Smith wanted a $10,000 signing bonus while the Tigers offered $8,500. He returned for his senior year and was drafted by the San Diego Padres in 1977, signing for $5,000. Smith made his major league debut in 1978 and immediately showed his defensive brilliance. He led the National League in assists every year with the Padres and won his first 2 Gold Glove awards in 1980 and 1981. However, his offensive numbers were poor during those early years, hitting just 231 with only 1 home run in 4 seasons. This led to a contract dispute with Padres ownership that became so heated his agent placed a help-wanted ad in the San Diego newspaper. The standoff resulted in a 6-player trade to the St. Louis Cardinals in 1981, with Smith going to St. Louis for Gary Templeton. Many thought the Padres got the better deal since Templeton was hitting 305 compared to Smith's 231 average. Smith initially balked at the trade due to a no-trade clause, but Cardinals manager Whitey Herzog personally flew to San Diego to convince him to join the team, promising he would be a valued core component of the franchise. Once in St. Louis, Smith's defensive magic truly began to shine. His ability to make impossible plays look easy earned him the nickname the Wizard of Oz. He won 13 straight National League Gold Glove awards from 1980 to 1992, still the record for shortstops. He was selected to 15 All-Star teams, showing both his excellence and popularity with fans. When Smith retired, he held major league career records for assists with 8,375 and double plays with 1,590 by a shortstop. His 8,375 assists remain the most by any player at any position in Major League history. He also holds the single-season record for assists by a shortstop with 621 set in 1980. An advanced defensive metric ranks his career value at 44.2, putting him first on the all-time list by more than 4 points. Hall of Fame manager Whitey Herzog said Smith made more diving plays than anyone he had ever seen. Smith explained that great plays come from keeping yourself in position to make routine plays. He viewed his style as a mix of natural instinct and incredible preparation, spending extra time learning the unique characteristics of each ballpark. The backflip became Smith's most famous trademark, a joyful display of athleticism that defined his approach to baseball. The tradition started during Fan Appreciation Day when Padres promotions director Andy Strasburg and teammate Gene Tanasi encouraged him to perform one for the crowd. The enthusiastic reaction made it a regular part of his routine for opening days, all-star games, and playoff appearances. The backflip perfectly captured his acrobatic skill and the excitement he brought to every game. While Smith was labeled a no-hit shortstop early in his career, he worked hard to improve offensively. His bat reached its peak during the 1987 season when he batted .303, the only time he would reach that mark, collecting 40 doubles, 75 RBIs, and 104 runs scored, all career highs. This earned him the National League Silver Slugger Award, and he finished as MVP runner-up. But it was his postseason heroics that truly changed how people viewed his hitting. In the 1985 National League Championship Series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, with the series tied at 2 games each, Smith hit a dramatic walk-off home run in the bottom of the 9th inning of Game 5. This was his first career home run, batting left-handed in over 3,000 at-bats. Cardinals radio announcer Jack Buck's call of "Go crazy, folks, go crazy" became timeless baseball history. Smith batted .435 for the series and was named NLCS Most Valuable Player. The conflict with Tony La Russa in 1996 threatened to become the defining story of Smith's career, but it ultimately became just a footnote. Despite the public disagreement, Smith's greatness was recognized immediately. In 2002, in his first year of eligibility, he was elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame with 91.7% of the vote, a level of support previously unseen for a defensive-minded player. His Hall of Fame induction speech was memorable as he held a baseball in one hand and a copy of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz in the other, comparing his career to the journeys of the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion. After retirement, Smith remained connected to baseball and the St. Louis community, working as a broadcaster and supporting numerous charitable causes, including the Make-A-Wish Foundation. The Cardinals retired as number 1 in 1996, and a bronze statue of Smith stands at Busch Stadium. The sculptor noted that creating the statue was difficult because Smith spent half his career up in the air, perfectly describing his gravity-defying playing style. The story that Ozzie Smith destroyed his career is completely false. He redefined what it meant to play shortstop, won 13 Gold Gloves, made 15 All-Star teams, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. His conflict with Tony La Russa was a brief moment that couldn't diminish 19 years of excellence. Today, at 70 years old, Smith remains one of baseball's most respected figures, proving that true legends are built on decades of greatness, not destroyed by one difficult season. If you enjoyed learning about the real story behind this baseball legend, hit that like button and subscribe for more sports history that separates fact from fiction. Fred McGriff is over 60, and the truth behind his downfall is absolutely heartbreaking. For over a decade, this baseball legend was forgotten by Hall of Fame voters, dismissed as just another forgettable player from the steroid era. But here's what those voters didn't see coming. Fred McGriff's story actually begins with one of the most amazing comebacks in baseball history. Drafted as a skinny 17-year-old from Tampa, Florida by the New York Yankees in the 9th round of the 1981 draft, nobody expected much from this kid who signed for just $20,000. His own father said the odds of him making it to the majors were slim and none. That first season seemed to prove everyone right when McGriff posted a terrible 148 batting average in the Gulf Coast League, collecting only 2 extra base hits in 94 plate appearances. Most players would have quit right there. But McGriff did something that would define his entire career. Instead of giving up, he spent his winters playing ball in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic, getting those crucial extra at-bats and experience that would shape him into the player he was destined to become. This period of struggle became his trial by fire. Then came the trade that changed everything. On December 9th, 1982, the Yankees made what's now considered one of the most lopsided trades in baseball history. They saw McGriff as a redundant prospect blocked by Don Mattingly and shipped him off to Toronto along with Dave Collins and Mike Morgan. In return, they got pitcher Dale Murray and infielder Tom Dodd. At the time, it seemed logical for the Yankees, who were focused on their immediate needs. But here's the kicker. Murray won only 3 games in 3 years with the Yankees, and Dodd's entire career lasted just 8 games in the majors. McGriff, on the other hand, became a superstar. After joining Toronto, he blossomed into one of the most consistent power hitters of his generation. By 1987, he was a full-time major leaguer, and in 1988, he hit 34 home runs, starting an incredible streak of 7 straight seasons with 30 or more homers. The next year, he led the American League with 36 home runs and hit the very first home run at the new Sky Dome, helping propel the Blue Jays to an AL East Division title. What made McGriff special wasn't just his power, but his incredible consistency. Think about this. McGriff drove in over 80 runs every single season from 1988 to 2002. That's 15 straight years of elite production. He was consistently in the top 10 of MVP voting from 1989 to 1994, establishing himself as one of the premier players in baseball. His career took him on an incredible journey across multiple teams, and everywhere he went, he made an impact. After his trade to San Diego in 1990, he achieved something remarkable, leading the National League in home runs with 35 in 1992. This made him the first player since the 19th century to lead both the American and National Leagues in home runs. But his most memorable moment came during his 1993 trade to Atlanta. McGriff hit a home run in his very first game with the Braves, sparking an unbelievable 51-17 run that saw them overcome a 9-game deficit to win the division. He became a crucial part of the Braves' 1995 World Series championship team and was outstanding in the playoffs, batting .303 with 10 home runs in 50 career playoff games. Before we continue with McGriff's incredible story, let me know in the comments what you think about players who maintain their integrity in an era of controversy. Does character matter more than flashy numbers when it comes to greatness? Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing baseball stories like this one. Now here's where McGriff's story takes a frustrating turn, but one that ultimately proves his greatness. Despite all his achievements, he faced a unique challenge that had nothing to do with his talent. The 1994 to 1995 MLB Players' Strike completely changed the trajectory of his career and legacy. When the strike began, McGriff was having one of the finest seasons of his career. In just 113 games, he had already smashed 34 home runs and driven in 94 runs. He was on pace for 40 to 45 home runs over a full 162-game season. The strike cost him 66 games total, 48 in 1994 and 18 in 1995. Those missing games almost certainly would have given him the 7 home runs he needed to reach the magical 500-homer milestone. Instead, McGriff finished his 19-year career with 493 home runs and 2,490 hits, falling just 7 homers short of 510, hits shy of 2,500. His home run total tied him with the legendary Lou Gehrig, which shows just how elite his accomplishment was, even falling short of that round number. But those missing milestones created a psychological barrier for Hall of Fame voters who seemed to prioritize magic numbers over actual excellence. This brings us to the most frustrating part of McGriff's story. His career coincided with the steroid era, and while many of his contemporaries saw dramatic statistical spikes and would later face questions about performance-enhancing drugs, McGriff was a model of natural consistency. His career decline was gradual and expected, totally different from the sudden drop-offs that defined careers of players after steroid testing began. Here's the crazy part. The very thing that made McGriff a hero to some fans, his reputation as a clean player, actually hurt him with some voters. They used twisted logic, asking why he didn't have truly dominant numbers if he was clean while his contemporaries were not. Instead of being praised for his integrity, he was penalized for not achieving the same inflated numbers as players who may have used illegal substances. McGriff's Hall of Fame journey became a decade-long nightmare. From 2010 to 2019, he appeared on the Baseball Writers Association ballot, but his vote totals never came close to the required 75% threshold. His highest total was just 39.8% in his final year of eligibility. Supporters called the voting totals a joke and evidence of a flawed process. But then came the most satisfying conclusion to this incredible story. In December 2022, McGriff finally got the recognition he deserved through the Contemporary Baseball Era Committee. And here's what made it so special. All 16 committee members cast their ballot for him, resulting in a unanimous 100% election. This wasn't just any committee either. These were former players and executives who actually saw McGriff play. What made this even more meaningful was that controversial figures like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, and Curt Schilling were also on that same ballot but were not elected. The message was clear. Character, consistency, and a clean reputation now held more weight than inflated statistics from the steroid era. During his induction speech, McGriff expressed how meaningful it was to be validated by former players and executives who saw him play, calling it as good as it gets. His speech was filled with stories from his journey, from being cut from his high school team as a sophomore to his famous first game with the Braves. McGriff's final career numbers tell the story of sustained excellence that deserves recognition. Over 19 seasons, he played 2,460 games with 8,757 at-bats, finishing with a 284 batting average, 2,490 hits, 493 home runs, and 1,550 RBIs. His 886 OPS and 134 OPS plus show he was consistently 34% better than the average hitter throughout his career. His 52.6 WAR demonstrates just how valuable he was to his teams year after year. These numbers represent nearly 2 decades of excellence, something that should matter more than arbitrary milestones. Today, McGriff continues to be involved in baseball, serving as a special assistant to baseball operations for the Atlanta Braves. In 2025, he was named hitting coach for the American League All-Star Futures team, proving his knowledge and dedication to the game continues long after his playing days ended. His involvement shows that the baseball community recognizes his expertise and character. McGriff's unanimous election represents a fundamental shift in how we value baseball greatness. By using a committee of his peers to bypass the biases of writers, the Hall of Fame redefined what makes a Hall of Famer. The election of McGriff, while excluding others with more impressive but tainted numbers, sent a powerful message about integrity in sports. His story is the perfect example of perseverance and paradox. From a struggling minor league prospect who nearly quit to a Hall of Fame legend who waited over a decade for recognition, McGriff proved that quiet dedication and integrity matter more than flashy statistics. His journey from that terrible 148 batting average in rookie ball to a unanimous Hall of Fame selection shows that true greatness isn't always measured in round numbers or record-breaking seasons. Fred McGriff's legacy stands as proof that consistency, character, and clean play define true baseball immortality. His long overdue induction wasn't just recognition of his talent, but a testament to doing things the right way in an era that desperately needed it. What do you think about McGriff's story and whether his clean record and unanimous selection set a new standard for baseball greatness? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories about baseball legends who overcame the odds.